Welcome everybody to the weekly Microsoft 365 platform community call. It is March 15th, unless I'm mistaken. It is actually really good. So my name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a program manager in Microsoft 365 platform areas. And today we're going to go through first the monthly summary. So we're going to call out all of the people who've been actively involved within the monthly contributions, calling out the companies, calling out the people in the intro section. And we're going to go through a few of the latest news on the Microsoft 365 platform. Then we will do a crew photo with together mode in Microsoft Teams. It was actually quite kind of nice to see Jeff Deeper's 5 years blog post, which we're going to talk about a bit today, had actually one of our GIF pictures on it. I might have actually provided that for the writers of that blog post. So it's good to get our community visible in those as well. And then we'll have two main demos of today. So we only have two. So we wanted to give both presenters or demos a bit more time this time. So first demo will be Harini, Michelle, and Mark Cashman talking about fit and format Microsoft lists for work and life. And then followed up with Sebastian Leverk, which is a recurrent focus area on the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. I guess this is the last one on that series, but we're going to talk about that one with Sebastian as after the second section. Now, quick recap on the assets which we have available for the community. So first of all, we have two different YouTube channels, a bit of a confusing thing, but there are historical reasons how we ended up in this situation. But we have the official Microsoft 365 developer YouTube channel, where we have all of the official guidance from Microsoft related on development topics. Then we have our community YouTube videos, where you can find all of our community calls and community demos and community call recordings and all of that stuff. So two different areas. Don't worry about it. Subscribe on both of them. So you'll see new videos coming up on every single day. We have a lot of open source assets available for you to take advantage, but as it might be a bit difficult to find what is the right sample for you to get started, we have actually worked on these sample galleries where you can go and really target it what you're looking for. So if you're looking for Microsoft Teams samples explicitly, you can go to one location. You can easily find them using this more portal style location, and you with the search, and then that points to actual GitHub location. And if you're wondering that there's too many URLs to remember, I can't. Just too much. Luckily, there's only one, which is the AKMS M365 PMP, which is our platform community welcome page. Now, before we go to the forward on other areas, I wanted to actually call out that it is 5th anniversary for Microsoft Teams. So congratulations for Microsoft Teams. It was released on 14th of March, 2017. So yesterday was the 5th anniversary. So thank you all for being part of the community. Really cool to see how the product and services what Microsoft are providing are evolved based on the feedback what we're getting from you, and that's something what we do with all of the products what we do. And so please do continue giving us feedback. Now there's a blog post from Jeff Deeper from yesterday. That's from the Microsoft Teams blog, which really focuses on covering this journey from 2017 to 2022 and what's also coming up in the future, or touches those aspects as well. Now on the platform side of the house, we also want to remind you please do subscribe on the Microsoft 365 developer program. You will get a free E5 developer tenant, and as long as you use it for developer purposes, it will renew in every single 90 days. So there are some level of a detection in that tenant, which will then figure out that is it actually used for development purposes or some other purposes. And of course, we don't want these tenants to be used in outside of the developer areas. So that's why that is there. But if you go AKMS/M365/dev program, you can find a way to subscribe to that program. We also have a lot of training materials available for Microsoft 365 platform across the different stack. So please take advantage of these. These are completely free. You do not, if I remember correctly, you do not even need to register. But if you register, you can actually, it tracks those trainings and modules which you have gone through. And there's something like, I need to double check, 74 training modules from Microsoft 365 on the developer side of the house, and then more and more on other sides as well. So really, really cool assets. Now, something that we've also been working on quite a long time, but we are just about ready to get officially this launched, is our unified Microsoft 365 sample gallery, where we have now more than 1,000 samples, so which is really, really cool. So one of the areas where we worked yesterday and last week, we're still getting the list formatting samples available in here. So there's hundreds and hundreds of Microsoft list formatting samples also exposed from this one location, including Microsoft Teams samples, including Microsoft Graph samples, including SharePoint Framework samples and Viva Connection samples. There's a lot of stuff available, and script samples as well. So thank you, Paul, for helping on that one as well. So more than 1,000 samples on one single location, which is really, really cool. Now, if you're wondering how would I get started on using those samples, we will have ways of helping you. So David, your turn.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vesa. Yeah, friends, as you have seen, 1,000 samples. So a huge congratulations to all of you, because those samples would not be available without you. But you may be wondering, well, how did those samples get there? Again, it's being contributed by the community. But sometimes contributing those samples might come with a few hurdles. So Sharing is Caring is a program that's going to provide hands-on guidance to assist you in not only using, but contributing back to the community. These are safe space opportunities. They're regularly scheduled, and they will work with you, and we will work with you together to show you how to make a GitHub contribution if you've never done a pull request for both Power Platform, general first-time contributions, community docs. Perhaps you're wanting to start using these samples and not quite sure how. We've got sessions for that. And if you'd like to present on the call, we've got sessions for that as well. We have the Viva Connections ACEs coming up soon, and our ever popular AMAs. We've got PNP.js today. Right after this call, you could just go to the Sharing is Caring landing page and hit the Join Now button. And then we've got a Viva Connections with the engineering team coming up soon. So we're going to be scheduling that here in the next few days. Be on the lookout for that. Again, all safe space, all great opportunities to work hand in hand with other members of the community, Microsoft, and MVPs. You can join any and all at aka.ms/sharing is caring. Be aware we are scheduling those, so just bear with us. We're trying to be considerate of the upcoming conferences like the Power Platform Conference and M365 Collaboration Conference. So look for those to get scheduled in the next few days, and there are some available for registering now. Vesa, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, David, on that one. Now, a few other things which we're always promoting in here on the Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast. Hosts are Jeremy Fake and Paul Shuffling. Great way of following up on what's happening in Microsoft 365. And we have our Microsoft 365 PMP weekly podcast as well, including the V-blog, which is getting released on every single Tuesday. Right now, I think we released episode 157 today, which is pretty cool. And now I'm watching Mark, even though he doesn't see that I'm watching you, but I'm seeing your camera, and I do feel bad about not covering Intra-Zone podcast in our weekly recap, but that's a good thing to promote during the demo.
We are extremely developer light on the Intra-Zone, but thank you for the call.
Yes, but it's always kind of, it's so subjective. What is development? What is platform? What is not development and platform? So list formatting is a really good example of that. So, but anyway. So, quick recap also on the latest news on the Microsoft 365 side of the house. Like I said, Jeff Deeper had an awesome blog post yesterday from Community Celebration, Microsoft Teams 5 years anniversary, and check that one out. I wrote actually last week about the top 10 most widely used SharePoint framework solutions in store, so that's available in a SharePoint blog. And then we had TLS certificate changes for Microsoft 365 services. That's an interesting one. So there are some certification changes which theoretically might impact your application if you have implemented something which is dependent on those certificates. So something to potentially check out as well. Then there was news on the Viva Learning news and feature updates. So Viva Learning is still in beta or in preview, but rolling out and new features and capabilities are coming out as well. And there will be a extensibility options there as well if you are more on the developer side of the house. So all of that is gradually crawling and getting out as well. And then we had our first public preview of SharePoint Framework 1.15. So 1.14 is the latest in GA, which can be used for building solutions for Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Viva, and for SharePoint. And 1.15 is going to GA most likely in June, but this is the first public preview, so blog post on that. Now, on the Microsoft Teams platform side of the house, we have Sorp here, who's going to actually talk about the latest in here.
Thank you, Vesa. Hello, all. My name is Surbi, and I'm the Program Manager for Teams DevDocs. Today, I'd walk you through the platform and documentation updates. Let's start with the platform updates on the left side. We've updated the Authenticate API to support external or third-party auth providers such as Google, GitHub, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Earlier, the problem was that Google wouldn't work smoothly inside tabs on Teams platform. After this update, you can now use third-party auth providers such as Google on mobile by using two new parameters in authenticate method to successfully authenticate users from external auth providers. This authenticate method can be employed by leveraging the beta version of JS SDK and is currently supported on mobile. To know more, you could refer to the documentation, and the link to the same is provided here. Now let's move to the documentation part on the right-hand side. We've been working on multiple step-by-step guides. Step-by-step guide is an artifact that has a task-oriented approach, linear topics, provides an end-to-end scenario, and loops you back to the documentation. So we'll be talking about 4 SBS guides today. Firstly, the search-based messaging extension. This allows users to search external systems and insert search results into the message in form of a card. This step-by-step guide helps you to build a search-based messaging extension. The second guide is action-based messaging extension. This step-by-step guide helps you to build Teams action-based messaging extension to initiate actions from the compose message and message area. The third one is configure AAD SSO for tabs and messaging extension. For users signing into Teams, your app can use a single sign-on to authorize your Teams app on desktop or mobile clients. If a user signs in once, they don't have to sign in again on another device as they are signed in automatically. This step-by-step guide helps you to create tabs and messaging extensions enabling AAD SSO authentication. Finally, the Build Teams connectors. Connectors allows users to subscribe to receive notification and messages from web services. They expose the HTTPS endpoint for the service to post messages to Teams channels, typically in the form of cards. This step-by-step guide helps you to create and test a connector in Microsoft Teams. So these were the platform updates. If you have any feedback or suggestion, please post on Teams platform feedback. The link is available in the footer. You could also follow us on Twitter and configure to the RSS feeds to get regular platform updates. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Really, really cool updates. And it's great to see how we're innovating on the Docs platform. I guess it was Jim Duncan who actually even was amazed on that's really, really cool how we're doing that step-by-step guidance on the Docs. So really, really helpful. That's going to help a lot on people understanding things. Now, moving on updates, we have a busy goal starting and a few more things to cover before our group photo. So first of all, on the Learn from the Community series from Ika Bass this week, there's quite a few people actually joining her to talk about Power Virtual Agent Bot that offers an easy onboarding and verification process to users who want to join the communities on Microsoft Teams. And this is a recurrent weekly series released as a blog post and then a video in the developer blog post area. The cool point here also is that if you have a story to tell, if you build something which you want to actually share a story for other people in the community, please let ICAP know by saying going to the AKMS share your story URL, and you can actually sign up for doing a video and explaining what you built in the Microsoft Teams, because that's the great way of understanding what's possible for seeing the other people's implementations. Now, still, before we go to the demos, I want to call out our March 2020 update is now available. So basically calling out all of the updates in the Microsoft 365 platform from a video, blog post, article, documentation perspective, and including all of the contributors. So we did have a significant list of contributors once again in our open source and community side of the house. And I was forced to split this in 3 different slides and reduce again the font size. So I'm not going to call out all of the people. I do apologize on that one. That would take again too long, and it's not actually that interesting. But a lot of people being involved, again, helping other people in the community. So contributing in GitHub, contributing in demos, contributing in other ways or documentation updates. So thank you everybody for being such an awesome community and being part of this. And we're always looking for additional community members. Sharing is caring program is a great way of also learning. How could I contribute? How could I get more involved in these things? We also want to call out the companies which we are having permission to show, who allow their employees to be part of the open source and community effort. So thank you for these companies who've been involved within the past month. On the Microsoft side of the house, again, a massive long list of people who've been actively contributing and fixing stuff and updating documentation and samples and all of that stuff. So thank you for these people as well. And now, before we go to the actual demos of today and the real stars of today, we'll do a quick crew photo. So let me actually start the Camtasia recorder and get the together mode in the right status and move you in here. Not a region. I want to do the full screen. No, not that screen. Screen, that screen. So we still have few seats on the 50. There's a 50 people attendee limit. Guess that's filling up. That's filling up. That's filling up. Let me hit the record button. Not yet. Not yet. Wait. And I guess we have maxed out. So thanks everybody. Let's do some hand waving. I can see some younger people in the call as well. Really cool. Thanks for being part of the community. Thanks for being part of there and joining us on a weekly basis. Thank you. Thanks everybody. Cool. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that. Excellent. So let me stop the recording quickly. There. Move in here, and then we'll actually go to the stars of today. So Harani and Michelle and Mark Cashman are going to start. Take it away.
All right. Well, it's really nice to see that this crew does just barely anything through the year. I mean, one slide, come on. It's amazing when I remember when they turned this whole inside of the Microsoft and the community effort to the Microsoft 365 development. I was a little wary because I knew it was building off of SharePoint, but to see it touch SharePoint and Viva and the Power Platform and of course, lots of things in Office, it's amazing to see what this group does. And so thank you for having us here. We're going to dive into lists, and certainly we circle around the lists API, all of us, when we're doing a lot of what we're doing today. A lot of what we're going to show you is what's new with the product, what you can do with JSON and formatting, and some of the things around templating. So we've got a lot to cover. We're going to keep it pretty tight. We got to make sure to have time for Sebastian. But quick intros, my name is Mark Cashman. I'm on the Microsoft 365 marketing side of things. And here today joining with me is Harini Salidi and Michaela Barrett from the engineering team. Real quick hello and introduction from Harini.
Hello, hi, my name is Harini. I'm a PM on the lists team, and I own the enterprise lists app as well as the list creation flows and templates that you see in the product right now.
My name is Michaela Barrett. I work with Harini, and I'm also on the list product team.
So while we're presenting, obviously, we're going to trade who's talking and who's showing. We'll be in the chat, so if you have questions or feedback, we'll be digesting and replying to that. But don't hesitate if you have any questions, if you're looking for content, or if you just have any feedback. You've got two people from the product team, and it's a really two great ears to take that feedback. My ear doesn't quite count, but I always channel back so that will get through. So let us get started. We're going to be talking about the fit and format of Microsoft lists for work and life. And that last part, and life, might surprise you a little bit, but you will see what we mean. But in essence, we have been carrying forward SharePoint lists for quite some time now. We're about 2 years into this big journey of what we now label as Microsoft lists, with a huge intent to make it a lot easier for people who don't know anything about SharePoint to be able to create lists, to be able to make the information work for them, to simplify the user interface. And that makes it so that you can track and do a lot of different scenarios. Some things as simple as just a contacts list, something like I do all the time, managing events at a session. And with some of the new capabilities, especially in the scenarios of using your Microsoft account, doing things more in the consumer space like tracking gifts or maybe even home repair, all of it is meant to be simple but configurable, where you can really make it your own. So once you start tracking information, to make the information work for you, to use things that are smart, like visualizations that help you key into what it is that your information is telling you. If things change, to have things automatically happen, maybe not always requiring Power Automate, but it's there if you need it, and that it's flexible. So you can configure your forms, you can configure your flows, but really to munge the information. And we have a lot of new entry points that are new if you're a SharePoint list historian. We now have an entry point in Microsoft Teams. We've got a great mobile app for iOS coming soon for Android. And we've got a new home that we call Lists Home, especially when you think of typing in our new URL. But I will save that when we talk about consumer. But if you haven't checked this out, it's really easy to. If you're an Office 365 customer, you have it. Just go to the Lists Home. And if you want to try it out in the consumer space, just hang in there and we'll tell you how to get there very, very quickly. But first, in chat, we just wanted to get a little feedback from you. If you have been using Microsoft Lists, we want to know what lists you've been making recently, or maybe the ones that you make all the time. And that's the perfect use case for lists and how you've come to use it. But we also just want to know, how do you keep track of your items? If it's not in Lists, if you haven't used Lists, we want to know how you do it. Is it an Excel spreadsheet? Is it a whiteboard that's a physical with markers? Is it a piece of paper? Is it just in your brain and somehow you've got an amazing brain that holds it all? We just want to know. So take time, put it in the chat. We won't spend a lot of time right now going over it, but all of us, like I mentioned, we're going to be in the chat. We'd love to see you call out, just even if you list the type of list or a type of information that you track. If you give any more details, bonus points there. We just want to hear what it is that you're doing with lists, what you want to do with lists, or if you're not using lists, what it is that you're using so we can learn from that. So thanks for putting your thoughts in the chat. We know this is not a shy crew. And if it leans into the heavier side of development of lists, don't be shy there as well. The list team that we've got on the call certainly is cognizant of how you build solutions on lists, and we'd love to hear that too. So, Michaela, this is your slide.
Thank you, Mark. So we've been teasing the ability to try Microsoft Lists for personal use cases or anything that you might need outside of an AAD system. So I want to put this slide up here to take the suspense away and invite you all to try the preview that we have. Going to the preview is as easy as typing in list.live.com. And I just want to be super clear that this is using your Microsoft account. So my personal Microsoft account is michaelabarrett@gmail.com. I connected my Gmail to it, but you might have something that's a Outlook account, a Yahoo account, and you can now use the power of SharePoint and the power of lists with that account. So we're actually going to do a deeper dive into this later, but I do want to just kind of put this out there in case anyone's super eager to go try it out. So let's break down a couple of new things that we've been working on in the List app. And then, like Mark said, I'm on the engineering team, so I actually am going to jump right into demos of these. But to lay out what I'm going to show, let's go ahead and walk through a couple of really exciting things coming to the product. The first is a new way to visualize your list data with something we're calling the board view. And you can see here what we're basically doing is taking a column and turning it into a bucket, and you're able to track items as they move through a process or a workflow. And this is actually rolling out now. I think on here it says it's coming soon, but it's rolling out now. And then, of course, we have spent the last year and a half really trying to improve the way that you interact with the list. So changing the way that you go ahead and get the editors working, the formatters working, as well as supporting a lot of custom formatters. And as mentioned here, the community building some of these custom formatters is just phenomenal. That's actually where I get all of mine from. So I am really excited to show you some of my favorites and also kind of show you some of the out-of-the-box improvements that we're making. And then lastly, a work item near and dear to my heart is we brought the power of lookup fields into the modern UX. And with doing this, we made a couple of improvements to the lookup column. The first is, one, you could access it in the modern UI, which is great. But the ones that I think are really exciting for this group of folks is we used to only allow you to go through the first 30 items in the source list, but now we go through the first 2,000. So as you get, your list bigger and bigger, it actually makes it easier to sift through larger lists. And then the second thing is we added the ability to type ahead. When you do have a list that's over 2,000 items or more, scrolling is very irritating, as I'm sure folks on this call know. So those are two changes that I am super excited to show. All right, so let me go ahead and jump over to my other screen and kind of show off a couple of things that I was talking about here. And so what you can see that I landed on is just a Microsoft list that we all know and love. I'm in the Microsoft List app that Mark was talking about. And this list is something for a company selling their products. They sold them during the holiday and they wanted to kind of keep track of what sold, how much did it sell for, did they actually get someone joining their distribution list? And a couple of things that I want to do to make this list better are adding that custom formatting. Everything that you see now is out of the box. I did not write any JSON. I did not do anything beyond turning on a couple of toggles inside of the controls here. But what I do want to do is make this customer satisfaction look a little bit better. And so I'm going to go in, I'm going to actually go into that advanced mode and paste in some custom JSON that I have copied to my clipboard. It's a little bit long. I'll share it out with everyone afterwards. But what you can see here is that it kind of turns that percentage into a couple of hearts. So if the customer was 100% satisfied, we get all 5 hearts. If they're only 60% satisfied, we only get a few.
You're
and
getting a ton of hearts on that one.
Yeah, I love this one. There's one thing that you can do to also make it a little bit cooler. I didn't love it for my color scheme here, but you can kind of like gray it out as you go through. But I want to walk through what I just did there. I went into GitHub and I pulled a couple of my favorite formattings out just for this demo. And as you can see, I kind of build out this little doc that I have here. And so I want to actually go through and show you another one that I love using for this list, which is if we're going to make it next year, is this, did it sell? Was it good? Are we going to invest in making it next year? And instead of just having the nice check mark, which is actually a huge improvement that we have a check mark out of the box, I want to have a nice little smiley face toggle in there. So you can go ahead and see that now the toggle has a little smiley face or a frowny face, depending on if it's a yes or a no. And so it just makes it a little bit friendlier to look at if folks are trying to fill out the data and look through it. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we have been improving our editing experience. So the first one that I want to show off is the ability to actually do rich text editing inside of the grid mode now. So if I go in and hit bold, I could go and add, change the font color, add some highlight. It really allows you to just kind of go ahead and customize this to what you need it to look like in the moment. And the ability to also add and remove images inside of this list in the grid mode is another improvement we've made. Let me go to one where there's not an image. You can go ahead, click add image, and then upload your files directly from here, which if you've been with us for a while, this has been a huge pain point for our customers. So I'm very excited to see that coming in. Now, let's look at this lookup column. For folks who know me, this has been a project I've been passionate about, so I'm really excited to be here today to demo this. In this Orchard Woodturner company, they have a separate list for events, events that they've held, events within their own team, as well as external events that folks have to show up to. And so some of these items might have sold at one of those events. And so we're going to put a column in here saying event for the sale. And I can go ahead and pick a list as the source. Note, this is coming from the same site collection. So I have my list stored in my lists. That's the site collection. So I'm going to be able to pick from any list that I have stored there. This is a structure that we've carried with us from the last few years here. So I'm going to pick the Orchard Woodturner holiday sales. I want to show the title column, but of course I can show more. Oh, whoops, I'm sorry, not holiday sales, events. Oh, no. There we go. And I'm going to pick the date so we can see when that actually happened. Now, when I go ahead and save this, we're going to see that column appear. And I can now go through and say, okay, this one actually did sell. What was the event that it sold at? Okay, maybe it was the Highland School visit. And then when I save that, you'll see that the date for the sale just automatically is pulled over from that source list. So really, really easy to use now. And like I said, you can type ahead to filter and it pulls over 2,000. For this demo, my list is really small, but have no fear. If you had thousands of items in there, that's also okay. Now, the last thing I want to show before I hand this off is that new board view that we've talked about. I've already created one here, but to go ahead and create a new view, you could simply click on board and you could choose which column you want to go ahead and actually make as those buckets. So if I went here and did board view MVP and hit create, you'll see that in a few seconds, I'm able to kind of create this very awesome view where I can simply go ahead and drag and drop things between to update that metadata and get my work done efficiently. And I can pop in here and add a new bucket if I want to. So I'm going to jump back over to the PowerPoint and hand this off. And I know I just demoed a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to look at the chat real quick. Okay, I think we're back to you, Mark.
Yeah, I was just switching up to get us to next slide. And
Okay.
also to let you know, if you didn't see it, you got a ton of kudos, lots of hearts, and of course, a lot of awareness of all the new stuff. The other thing I just wanted to make a quick note in the chat was there are so many great ways that people are using lists. And I also want to be both transparent and I think also just complimentary to the fact that it's not just lists that people use. It is totally okay, and I do it all the time, using lists and Excel when the use cases are right, or when you prefer. It may be that you're working with other people that work in Excel. You work in lists. That happens to me all the time. I will share out my list of sessions for an event, and they'll reply with an Excel spreadsheet of their events. I hope to get them all on lists for certain scenarios, but it's great to see everything that everybody's doing. So thank you for putting that in the chat. Harini and Michaela, definitely, if you haven't scrolled all the way back to the top, there's a lot of great scenarios. So real quick, if you are an Android user, and I had been for many, many years, and I just recently switched over to iOS, but I demo them both. If you want to get in on the private preview and you love lists on the go, give it a try. There's a AKA link at the bottom, aka.ms/lists-android-signup. It'll take you to a form in which you'll get back a way to get into that preview. It is also coming soon. We've had this preview open for a little bit. So if you're an Android user, the team is readying in the next couple of months to get this out into the GA phase. It's a great app. If you've been using it or have seen any of the videos or have used List, it is not a dumbed down way to get or use your list. You can create lists, you can edit lists, you can do a lot of things that you can do through the web, through Teams, now through mobile, no matter what your device is. So beyond mobile and beyond everything that Michaela just showed you, we wanted to take some time. I'm going to hand it over to Harini to really dive into what it is that you can do with templates and some things I know nobody has seen, because this will be the first time that she's going to be showing some of the new templates. With that, I will hand it over to Harini.
Hello, hi Mark. Thank you so much, Michaela. Those demos were awesome. I've seen you demo so many times, but seeing you in action again is like awesome every single time. I don't have as many demos to show today, but like Mark said, I will be showing some of the new lifestyle templates that are going to roll out to our list creation flow soon. But before I dive into the demos, I did want to sort of quickly run through some of the features that are currently rolling out as part of our list templates as well as the list creation spaces. So very first thing, something I'm like always excited about is this particular feature, which is like lists are now going to show up as part of the SharePoint app bar, which means that as you can see from the demo that is showing up on the slide, when you go to the SharePoint app bar and click into the lists tab, you should be able to see all of your recent lists as well as your favorite lists show up there. So no need to move out of the app context. You can consume your list directly from there. And if you want to see more of your recent list, you can just click on the See More link, and that will take you to the list app. And again, another cool thing is that you can just create your list right from there. All of the list creation flows that you see currently within the list app as well as SharePoint will be available through the list creation flows in the SharePoint app bar. So pretty cool to have another entry point for our list creation flows. So next up, we have the ability to create custom list templates. I think maybe I have spoken to this audience about this before, but essentially, as you all know, we currently have 8 out-of-the-box Microsoft-defined templates that are available for list creation. And while these templates showcase the best of what lists have to offer, these are still a very small subset of the scenarios that might be needed within your work or organization. So with the custom list templates feature, we want to amplify the power of templates and enable organizations and consequently third-party solutions providers to create their own repeatable list solutions that will come packaged with schema, formatting, views, rules, automations, and much, much more. Essentially, as the list product grows and we add more features to it, we want to make it possible that all of those new features are packageable within these custom list templates. As you can see here in the screen, like the little demo recording that I have, currently you will see all of our out-of-the-box templates in the list creation flow as part of the From Microsoft tab. But once this feature rolls out, it's currently in first release. We are having some delays in rolling that out to prod, but hopefully the next few weeks it'll roll out to prod. As soon as that happens, your organization will be able to upload custom list templates, and those will show up in the list creation dialog in a tab right next to the out-of-the-box templates. And to make this process of creating these templatized solutions super easy, we have kept the process very consistent with the site templates experience, and we have just extended the existing site template PowerShell commandlets to work for list templates as well. The next slide, I have a very quick, update on how these custom list templates are created. Of course, they can be as complicated as you want it to be, but just a quick 3-step process, very similar to how you would do site script, site templates as well. So the first step would be any list that you have, you can extract the site script output from it by using get SPO site script from list. On the right-hand side here, you see what that output is going to look like. Obviously, you have your actions. The main action here is to create your list, and then all of the sub-actions that you see here are give you the capability to set the description for the list, create all of your columns, create your views, etc. And anyone who's done this in the past for site templates will realize that this is the exact same format. Then once you have that site script output, then you can create, you can upload that, grab its ID, and then you can use that ID to create your list design and using add SPO list design. And as soon as you do the add SPO list design, you can give it a color icon, just like you see all of our out-of-the-box templates within our list creation dialog. And once you do add SPO list design, that will that particular custom list template will show up under the From Your Organization tab in the list creation dialog. So super easy. We have documentation available for it. I'll drop a link for it in the chat after I'm done. So that was all about custom list templates. Next up, along with the custom list templates, we also have the capability to package business applications with our list templates. Sorry, I keep clicking on the slide and forgetting that this is PowerPoint live. Anyway, so yeah, we have added the capability to package business applications and pre-made rules into list templates. Right now, for our initial rollout, we are going to have the work progress tracker, the recruitment tracker, and the content scheduler being the ones that will come packaged. But in the future, we'll have more out-of-the-box list template that will get packaged flows, and we'll also support the ability to package flows and apps as part of your custom list templates. Essentially, the purpose of this is that, once we have this capability, any high-value automations, apps, and custom forms will become super easily deployable across new instances of your list. And even list users who are unfamiliar with Power Platform can easily create and benefit from these flows and apps. And hopefully, this is super beneficial to our list users. Now, let's dive right in to our new list templates. Before I demo, essentially, as you all know, so far all of our templates have helped you kind of organize and manage your work, but we want to bring the same goodness to your everyday life scenarios too, especially with the MSA preview rollout that Michaela and Mark have been talking about. And let me share my screen. As you can see here, we have 3 new templates. The first one is the gift ideas, the second is the expense tracker, and the third is the recipe tracker. Essentially, what we want to do is that we want to have templates that are also helping you in your everyday life scenarios as well. And I'm really excited about these templates because I've been using them pretty regularly over the last couple of weeks, as it has been in our internal rollout rings. So the first is gift ideas, which will help you easily organize your gift planning for your family and friends all in one list. Hopefully get a head start on your Christmas planning. And in this particular template, we have the first, obviously, you can track your gifts, what the price point of the gift is, who's going to receive it, what is the occasion link, and also if you purchased the gift already. And once you actually create the list, you also have views that are specific to, hey, have you already purchased this? If not, these are the things that haven't been purchased. So this is super lightweight ideas template that you can use for gifts, and maybe you can take inspiration from it and track other ideas as well. Next up, we have the expense tracker. In this case, it is obviously very much life focused, but you can definitely take inspiration from it and use it for a bunch of other scenarios. For example, if you're tracking expenses with your roommates, or for a DIY project, or you're planning your wedding and you want to track all of the expenses in that, you can use this for that. We have what the expense is, when the expense was made, the date, how much the expense was, and you have an easy way to categorize all of your expenses, and obviously views that can filter to specific categories. And we also have an easy way for you to upload a receipt if you want to do so for this particular tracker. And finally, my favorite one is a recipe tracker. A lot of the times we have, I keep kind of bouncing off different websites trying to find the right recipe that my family will love. So we've kind of created this as a way for you to, have your own virtual recipe book. You can have the recipe, you can tag it as a side or a favorite, and also track if you've already tried this recipe, and then you have a link to it as well. And this has become one of my favorite templates because it's super easy to just pop in all of our recipes and then just go back to the list and be like, okay, today I'm going to make this. So yeah, these are the 3 new templates that we are going to be rolling out. And over the course of the next couple of weeks, we are also focused on rolling out a bunch of other new templates, all kind of life focused, things like house hunting, job application tracking, and a bunch of other categories. But if you have any other ideas for life templates, please drop them in chat. I would love to have a look at them, and we would love to put that out there as well. That's it from me, Mark.
That is excellent. Thank you, Harini. We're going to take just 10 seconds here while Michaela gets set up to bring us home. We've got a couple of minutes left. We just wanted to give big kudos to the entire community, but specifically there are 4 that we wanted to call out that have been very active in sharing their samples, obviously loud and proud through their Twitter handles, and some of which I've used personally in my own work to take advantage of a copy paste so that I had some nice formatting from what they've provided. But there's a lot more people I know in the community that provide a lot of samples. Vesa did a nice job of showing you the hundreds of them. But the 4 that I wanted to call out are Andre Lage, Chris Kent, Yao Ferreira, and Tetsuya Kawahara, all of which you see in their tweets. I'll drop these in the chat so that you can see some of these tweets and see them kind of in motion, what they've been doing with lists. And I'll also drop in the one that Vesa had mentioned. This is that list formatting central repository of a ton of great things for forms, for rows, for columns, a lot of things that I didn't even think were possible, especially some new things that I just learned in how you can leverage the new form on a page, embedding it on a page, even in as a tab in Teams. So thank you to the community. Thank you for the time today. I'm going to hand off to Michaela to take us home and take us through a little bit more about the new MSA preview.
Thanks, Mark. So we saw the slide, list.live.com, learn it, love it. So here's a couple of screenshots here where you can go to a browser, type in that URL I keep saying. If you can't tell, I'm excited. We finally have our own URL. And the preview's been open. We launched this on January 31st of this year. So we have been live for about 2 months at this point, just under 2 months, actually. And so folks are invited to kind of sign up for this preview and give as much feedback as possible. This community is some of the best list users in the world. And so it's always great to hear what you guys are thinking and what you guys want to do with this. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So when you go to list.live.com, you're going to be taken to this beautiful page that Mark Cashman made, where you can see what the MSA preview is. You'll notice we are limiting it to the first 200,000 accounts that sign up. Don't worry, we have space for everyone on this call to join. And when you scroll through this page, you'll see some marketing materials on what you can use lists for, just a couple of ideas here. Now, when you actually click sign in, I'm already authenticated. So you land on Microsoft List Home, and you'll notice, just to really emphasize this, I am signed in with that Gmail account that I mentioned. This is my personal account. It's not related to my Microsoft Azure Active Directory account at all. And you'll see that I have lists in here that are kind of outside the scope of my day-to-day job at Microsoft. My recreational volleyball schedule's in here. My ski touring and downhill skiing locations are in here. Home repairs are in here. You know, Mark Cashman shared with me the spawn of Cain. We got a lot of stuff going on in here. And so I want to go and just kind of show that we are really trying to make lists accessible to the rest of the folks who might want to use it for scenarios outside of what their AAD can do. And so when I loaded this list, you'll see that it looks very familiar. We have the grid view, we have gallery view, we have the features in here that folks have come to know and love. And of course, you'll see here I added, the difficulty in terms of bicep emojis. This is another formatter that I added here. It's a tiny one. I'll show it. And basically, I just want to point out that we support the customization that we all know and love from the same experience here. So you see my little emoji in there. And then one thing I want to show for folks who are going to go try it out is the best way to send feedback is with this provide feedback button here. If you like something, you don't like something, or you have a suggestion. These are things that my team is monitoring daily. And the other best way to send feedback is through Twitter or reaching out to me directly on Teams. All of that feedback is more than welcome, whether it's a bug, a feature that you want to see, something that's annoying you, something that's making you really happy, or if you have a really cool list, go ahead and share it with me. And you can even make it public, right? With this thing, we have the ability to actually say anyone with the link. You can turn off this required sign-in so that basically you're creating an anonymously published link. So if I go ahead and hit this shareable link, I'm going to paste it into our group chat. And all of you guys can go in and start checking out my list. If you've got a cool skiing spot you think I need to see, go ahead and make it item, and I'll take a look at it. So there's that link there. So go ahead and get on list.live.com.
Thank you, Michaela, and thank you, Vesa. We're going to be now super quiet because we don't want to get in the way of Sebastian. But thank you all for your time. Give the MSA preview a try. The links are in there a couple of times. If you don't find them or you don't find anything, you can find us all on Twitter. We're easy to find and happy to be very responsive because we're super excited about opening up the preview and hearing what you're doing with it. Vesa, back to you.
Cool. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Harini, as well. Really, really cool stuff. Sorry, Sebastian, we're a bit delayed on the time, but let's jump on your demo on MGT in SharePoint.
Awesome. Let me try to share that. That was awesome, guys, by the way. It was great to see List in action. Quite excited about it. Well, we are today on episode 13 of our journey towards building applications with MGT, or the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Today we will be focusing on building MGT apps with SharePoint and the SharePoint framework. So that's going to be very familiar to a lot of you folks in this room. So quick reminder, what is the Microsoft Graph Toolkit? Well, the toolkit is a collection of reusable, framework-agnostic components and auth providers that allow you to access Microsoft Graph and let you work with it. So basically, it's ready-made components that you can drag and drop into your solutions you're building with code, where you can just simply get access to functionality that connects your app directly to Microsoft Graph while delivering value, not just data, but all the value automatically. Why would you care about the Graph Toolkit? Well, first, it cuts on dev time. It will not take you hours to get a graph call going. It will not take you hours to get a visual of a graph call going. No, you're basically minutes away from having something working in your SharePoint framework solutions, or even in your React stuff, or in Angular, or in any of the frameworks you might be using. It's beautiful and it's flexible. It looks like Microsoft 365. It integrates really, really nicely with Microsoft 365. But also, if you want to make it your own, if you want to bring your own capabilities, your own design guidelines, your own languages in there, you can also do it. And also, it works everywhere. You want to work in SharePoint, you want to work in Teams, you want to work on the web, you want to work in Electron, any of that will allow you to be using MGT for any of your solution. MGT loves SharePoint framework, and we have built components around some of the usage pattern that we see in SharePoint. We also built specific authentication providers to take advantage of what SharePoint framework provides to simplify the Microsoft Graph development. And that's exactly what I want to show you today with our demo. So how do we start? First, we create a new project, yo@Microsoft/SharePoint. You create a new project there. I use the latest beta that was out last week. So I'm on a 1.15 beta. It works on any version of SPFX. Then afterwards, you install our MGT SPFX package. That MGT SPFX package allows you to connect to a library component that we have built that is part of MGT that you need to drop into your app catalog. We're going to go through that. But it connects with this, so you only have one instance of MGT on any of the pages you're using. That's going to help a lot when you're going to build multiple web parts with the MGT components. And finally, if you're using React, you just install our MGT React component. And from there, you are good to go. And now you can actually code. So let me go into some of that code to show you how this works. So first thing I want to show is the following. I'm just going to do that just for now. I'm in my app catalog. Sadly, Vesa did not send me the magic link to get the new version of the app catalog. That's okay. We saw that last week, was awesome. But the app catalog is here. The reason why is we have our MGT SPFX client-side solution. This solution is what drives the library component. And this is required to really have the best experience possible with MGT and SharePoint Framework together. So when you're building MGT solutions, always remember to go onto our GitHub, aka.ms/MGT. Just download the latest MGT SPFX package, drop in here, and deploy it. Then afterwards, you can start coding. Let me do that. You can start coding. Fairly simple. There's really very few capabilities that you need to add to your SharePoint framework to make it MGT enabled. One of the things you're going to have to import our provider and our SharePoint provider from our MGT SPFX package. That MGT SPFX package is what connects us to the MGT SPFX library component. And from there, you will be able to initialize the authentication for SharePoint. So for example, when we go a little bit further in on init that happens here, we're going to simply just say, for my global provider, what provides the authentication for my MGT component? I want it to be a SharePoint provider, and I'm going to pass in the context of this web part. What it's going to do, it's going to allow any MGT components to leverage some of the context in there. Basically, it's going to automatically authenticate to Microsoft Graph using the Graph client that comes built in to SPFX. So you're going to be all authenticated, and you're going to have all the governance you need regarding all the permissions that are automatically granted to your SharePoint Framework components. Then afterwards, how do you code? How do you actually make it happen to add components? So you will come here, and you're going to just simply drop in the same way we've done it in the past. You're just dropping in an MGT component here. Here I'm adding in an MGT React component, so my person with the queries that I need. And when I go to my workbench, I'm just going to make it a little bit wider. Well, now you see that even if I reload, you're going to see that it's going to automatically load my person here. It's going to load using the person component that we have in MGT. No login, no pop-up, no nothing. Just straight capability and features for your user. So that's really, really, really easy to use. Now, let's keep in mind that this is all connected to Microsoft Graph, and SPFX has a way to specify what are the permissions. So if you want to add more capabilities than just me, because me is granted by default, if you want to add some capabilities, well, you're going to have to go to your SharePoint. It's in the package solution. It's in the package solution file here, where you're going to define all the different web APIs that you're looking at. So I'm looking at Microsoft Graph with calendar.read, user.read.all, files.read.all, sites, mail, and people.read. What it's going to allow me is to add more capabilities. All of the permissions that we're using are all documented on our documentation page, where for this component, you need these permissions. Once you approve them, you're going to be able to build maybe more complex capabilities. For example, if I do this, here what I'm doing, I'm adding a pivot control. So that's a Fluent UI component that gives me a tabbed experience where I'm going to have an agenda, a file list, and a custom one with a get component in React that's going to connect to my emails. So when I hit save on this one, it's going to reload. It's going to rebuild my solution that currently runs on my machine. And in 1 or 2 seconds, I will be able to reload this. And you're going to see how the experience will be seamless. You won't have to think about any of the login components or whatsoever. Now you have your agenda, your files, and all your emails right there. So by just adding these very, very quick things in here, you really have a full capability to build SPFX solutions leveraging all of this. Something also really cool that SPFX provides is the ability to promote or to sync an SPFX solution to be used inside Microsoft Teams. This is an awesome capability that really delivers high value for our users. But Teams, as we know, has a lot of theming capabilities. And that's really great because, well, MGT does also. So if I go to the exact same solution I have here, let me just make that a little bit bigger. If I reload my page, you're going to see that all of my components are automatically in dark mode. This is due to the fact that automatically I can hook up to the theme changes in SPFX and automatically appending my MGT dark or MGT light classes to my entire web part or just to a section of my web part to make sure that my MGT components are all laid out in a nice dark way, like you can see right now. So please have a look, install MGT on your latest SPFX components, add your library component to your app catalog, and you are good to go with SPFX and MGT. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you, Sebastian. Really, really cool. And great to see also demos on 1.15 already at this point. And it's good to hear that you didn't run any issues with that. So, and cool looking templates, by the way, super, super nice to see the new templates being used in SharePoint and Teams as well. So thank you for showing those as well. Fun. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining today. Thank you, Harini. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Sebastian. Really, really cool demos once again today. We have quite a few, just to recap on the community call side of the house, we do have quite a few community calls available. And this is the weekly one, which happens every single Tuesday weekly. And this week is a bit of a change from a timing perspective because of the daylight savings in the US. So they moved 1 hour forward already. Europe is following in 2 weeks. So there's few weeks where the timings are a bit off if somebody is missing the call because of those timings. We also do have 3 or 4 other monthly community calls and then bi-weekly series happening on Thursdays, 7 a.m. Pacific time. If you're wondering on where would I get all of the access and URLs and all of those, again, AKMS M365 PMP. The recording of this call will be available within the Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel within 24 hours. You cannot, by the way, download the recording directly from Teams chat. So that does not work for external people. So that's precisely why we publish that in YouTube. If you follow up us on Twitter, you will know know when the call is available, or subscribe to the YouTube channel. Easiest way to get notified on them. Next community call, the weekly community call happens on 22nd of March. But that's it for this one. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for absolutely great interactive discussion in the chat. One more time, thank you everybody for presenting, for presenters and attendees. And see you next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.